the hair curlers that are blurred out hair curlers.
Those are not actual dildos in the video.
We can't confirm or deny, but one of them was a plug-in. So whatever you need to tell yourself.
Hey, it's me.
She's a former mayor. They're a former evangelical pastor with dissociative identity disorder. These two like to talk about the topics you're not supposed to talk about. They might cause you to perspire just a bit, but they'll definitely make you inspired. Let's talk religion and politics, and what spirituality and emotional well-being look like in a post-evangelical world. This is Paul and Ashley on Evangelicalish.
Hey, woo-hoo.
Yes, it is.
And do you know where you are? Because I don't know where you are.
Just a second ago, I was talking to our guest, and it took me a while to remember it. Yes, I'm in Jacksonville, Florida.
Florida. All right. Well,
I was in Pensacola 2 days ago, and we'll be in Sarasota tomorrow.
We are spanning the lower 48. It's time for Evangelical-ish. Paul is still on a cross-country tour. You just finished show 8 of 15, so you're over.
Yeah, we're halfway. And because I'm in Florida, I want to do this. Gay. All right, I said gay in Florida. You know, they have the don't say gay law, so I just said gay in Florida.
So tell us just a little teeny tiny bit about how it's going, and then we're going to get right to our guests. But first, just tell us what's been going on the last week.
Wow, yeah. So we left. We were in Texas. We went to Frisco and Houston. If I never go back to Houston, Texas, I'll be fine. It's the one place we're all kind of like, glad to be leaving. And so we went to Baton Rouge. You cannot get bad food in Louisiana. This I know. We ate some fabulous food. But then, so I've never been to Mississippi in my life. So we're driving to Pensacola, which everybody tells me is lower Alabama now in Florida. But we had to go through Mississippi, and we were getting hungry. And then, so we Googled someplace, we get off the highway, we are driving through backwoods, Mississippi. And we're like, oh my God, are we going to if some guy with a banjo jumps out, we're in big trouble. And it's funny because most of the places in Mississippi are closed on Sunday. I guess everybody goes to church. And so they don't. So we found this place called the Rusty Pelican, and we pull up and we're like, oh my gosh, where are we? And they turned out to be just salt of the earth people. Great family-owned restaurant called the Rusty Pelican, and the food was out of this world. They gave us free beignets and all these other things, and so it was wonderful. So I've now had good meals in Louisiana and Mississippi, but they did tell us, since we're down on the Gulf Coast, we were in a town called Long Beach, and they said, man, we're a little more progressive here than if you were up in Philadelphia, Mississippi, or someplace like that. It might be a little bit rougher. But, and they told us, there was some town, they're like, don't stop for gas there. Do not stop there. So we skipped that town, but we went on and went on to Pensacola.
Oh, wow. Well, that's pretty exciting. And I don't know. I shudder to think of what actually might have happened to you if you had stopped in that town. But I will say this, this is just sort of a minor spouse moment. You were kind of trash talking some of these southern towns before you loaded up and started driving through there. And I was like, I don't know, maybe there's a different experience you're going to have. And you're like, oh my gosh, I love Texans. That is a direct quote from Paul Swearingen.
I don't know if I said it quite like that, but
in my head, I heard it that way.
But I said I do need to take back some things I said about Texas. My light is dying, by the way, because Texans were just wonderful to us. I did have in Oklahoma City. I'm dressing fairly expressively for the tour, and I did have a lady and a husband walking past me in the venue where we were, and I said, "Hey, how are you guys doing?" And she just gave me this look, like the up down, and then she just walked on, didn't say a word. And
she was like, those shoes do not go with that belt or something like that. Maybe it was
Could be, but yes, we're just having a great time, and our guests may not know I have a dissociative identity disorder. I mentioned that at each venue. I had 3 people come up in tonight's event here in Jacksonville and said, I have DID too. And so we had a great conversation with that. And by the way, Jacksonville is beautiful. These towns are amazing. The architecture is amazing. I loved
That is so
driving around
cool.
Jacksonville.
Definitely a place I have not spent a lot of time in Florida. And all these places you're going, like, I just want to be like, oh, wait, hold on. I want to stop and go there and see all the things.
But do tell people back in Fresno when they roll their eyes at this, but it's a dry heat, do not roll your eyes. The humidity is unreal.
You know,
Unreal.
I am going to reinforce that because, yeah, it's been like 115 here some this summer. And yeah, we're all kind of losing our minds, but this is the only thing we have to hang on to. It's like our little tiny ice cube that we cling to, but it's a dry heat. And yes, it's good. It's a good reminder. I mean, like living in humidity is like breathing through a hot, wet towel. Like every breath is like, like that.
It is. And when you look at the temperature on, Google or Yahoo or whatever, Apple, it says temperature 92 degrees or 95 degrees or whatever, it's been very hot here. Feels like 104. So there's like a feels like because of the humidity, and we're figuring that out.
I'm waiting for my weather app to be like, your temperature is 115, feels like an ass crack.
Feels like freaking hot.
It just feels like you're,
I do look in on the temperature on you guys every day, and I'm like, holy crap, we are still at 104, 105 every day.
It is going to be a crisp, cool, like 88 this weekend. So it never happens in Central California in August that we would have this kind of temperature. So that's going to be nice.
All right. Well, let's introduce our guest. What do you say?
Absolutely. Go right ahead.
So they are called the Libtarts, and they were born out of boredom and bother, they say, and have put together some amazing videos like Illegal in Blank and a lot of other great videos, and we'll show you some of it in a bit. But let's bring on Emily, Elizabeth, and Jamie, the Libtarts. Love the name. Oh, wait, come on, Jamie. There you are.
There she is.
And a mystery gal.
Well, I'm assuming I know where the Libtarts is referring to, but maybe tell us a little bit how you all became the Libtarts, whoever wants to take the lead on that.
Well, first and foremost, 3 out of the 4 Libtarts went to college together, which is a crazy fun fact. We all went to Shenandoah Conservatory, or as the kids call it these days, Shenco. So we all went to college together for musical theater. So we did show after show together, summer stocks, you name it. So that's our background. And we all moved to the Big Apple to pursue our big Broadway dreams.
I don't know if you all saw Ashley's face when you said musical theater, but
Yes,
Ashley,
she
tell them why.
Our 24-year-old is an aspiring opera singer, musical theater kid, and this little one, from 7 years old, she was a little round thing with toothpick legs up on the stage in the chorus, singing her heart out. And it's been so fun to be like a theater mom these last 20 years.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Love that.
Obviously, we have progressed to doing more film and TV and content creation, but I still think theater and live performance, especially in these next 10 years, is going to be so vital to our humanity. So that's my little soapbox moment for live theater and live performance. But back to Liz.
So after years of frustration, I decided one day to pick up a camera and start shooting my own stuff and casting my friends, and decided, you know what? I actually like this better. My production company, Aging Millennial Productions, was born in about 2016. That we mostly, did indie flicks. We did music videos, a lot of comedy, a lot of music. Yeah. And then in later 2016, Um,
And what happened, Liz, in 2016?
I don't know if anyone knows what happened.
I do not remember what happened.
Some musician friends of mine, and we partnered up with them. They're named Annalise and Ryan, but they wrote an amazing song after the Access Hollywood tapes came out in 2016 called Furniture Shopping.
Oh,
Using sound bites from that famous Access Hollywood tape that we all thought there's no snowball's chance in hell that this is going to happen now. And so we put a little funny music video together. We were so smug about it. And then he won.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so then I had been in a different comedy troupe, and I saw Liz's video, and then the election happened, and so I went to Liz and I was like, hey, I don't know what we're doing, but we have to do something about this. You, me, political comedy, music videos, let's go.
I can't tell you how many times we looked at each other and said, "Oh, he just, made fun of John McCain. That's it. Now he's not going to get elected."
Yes.
So many strikes against him, but yet.
But God had other plans, right?
Yeah.
Let me show people what you do. I have a little video here, and let's show it.
Welcome to the great state of Texas. Please place all the items that you are declaring on the table in plain sight. What's this?
Encyclopedia Britannica?
We got an illegal item.
But I'm a teacher. You can't be serious.
Confiscated. Next. Ma'am, what are you declaring?
Oh, I 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 dildos.
Oh, I'll be taking those. Next. Anything to declare? Free to move along. God bless Texas.
I haven't watched that in so long.
You guys were cracking up watching it.
Well, we know what's coming.
Yeah, we do.
We have the advantage.
It's the hair curlers that are the blurred out hair curlers.
So those are not actual dildos in the video.
We can't confirm or deny, but one of them was a plug-in. So whatever you need to tell yourself.
Goodness.
And obviously there is a political tent to this.
Yeah. Absolutely. So that is where we shifted gears when Jamie came on board, and we did a comedic music video with our other Libtart, Katie, called "Put 'Em Up," where we were Elizabeth Warren, Rachel Maddow, and the late and great Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and so doing hardcore belting and rap hip hop.
Yeah, we were a girl pop group.
That's right. Yes. Which actually we got into a film festival, the Iron Mule comedy film festival in Brooklyn, and so that was a fun experience. And so then kept making content, snowballed a little bit, and then somebody decided to show her face on the East Coast again from Cali.
That was me.
And we were like, you know what? Let's put together a writer's room of like just amazing, badass ladies that know comedy, that are super funny and are awesome to work with. We were literally filming for that original sketch comedy pilot up until I think a week before I gave birth.
Wow.
There are photos you can find if you delve deep enough of me like with my huge naked belly out for our music video shoot.
Yeah,
let me interject in case somebody's not aware. That video I just showed, not only were you all not in the same room, right? You're not in the same state when you're putting these videos together.
We live in 4 different states.
Mm-hmm. Yep. We are not. The pandemic really exercised that muscle for us. Yeah. We were forced to go remote as soon as the world shut down, and we decided that was not going to stop us from making content. So our first really big crowdsourced remote project that we did was our very first viral hit, Zoom Block Tango, which also has a bit of a political sting to it. It's on our YouTube channel. Check it out if you haven't. We still love it, very proud of it. And yeah, we did that with dancers from East to West Coast. I think it was about 30 to 40 dancers all, sent us footage. I put it together. We all worked really hard on it and it paid off. So, and then after that, we just kept snowballing. And then eventually Libtarts comedy was formed and we just haven't stopped.
I mean, I probably the silliest question of the day would be like, where do you get your content or where do you get your inspiration? Because there are so many comedic things happening. I mean, life is just ridiculous right now. And so I imagine you're just like, hello, this is falling off the tree. It's like, you can't make this stuff up. But I'm curious, like, prior to your, getting into this lane, like, were you particularly political or do you guys come from religious or faith-based? Like, how do you arrive at the conclusion where you're like, yeah, this is the stuff we want to poke fun at?
Yeah, for sure. It's a great question. And for me, I mean, it's, diving into the more of the religion side of things. I'm a PK, grew up in the South, Friday Night Lights and gospel roots. My dad was both my football coach, like my high school football coach, and the pastor. So I'm very Southern in that way. So Friday Night Lights is like definitely such a, it's easy to tell people like that was me, but plus he was the pastor. So it's good to have that kind of context. And my dad's still a pastor to this day. But for me, I was raised Southern Baptist / kind of interdenominational. Like my parents kind of moved in and out of those sects, but it was all still evangelical, especially looking back. So my purview and my lens over politics was always very evangelical. So, but also like I didn't understand why I wasn't drawn to it. Like I couldn't get fully behind it. I couldn't put my finger on it. But as I, of course, grew up and started to deconstruct, it was very obvious to me that my views and how I believe God is not tied to the Republican Party.
Yep.
And not tied to conservative politics.
And I want to love to hear from Elizabeth and Jamie too, but just quick follow up. So, so did that deconstruction begin for you with Trump? Was this happening before like the Trump buzzsaw, or like say a little more about that?
Sure. I think it happened for me throughout my life, and I just wasn't realizing it was happening. So I'm actually really grateful that it wasn't just one light bulb that I had to quickly that crushed my entire world, right? So for me, it's been since I was young. Thankfully, I moved a lot and I got to see a lot of the different churches and communities. So it happened little by little, but I will say this, my deconstruction had been happening, I would say, for at least 10 years before Trump, but seeing my parents support Trump was definitely jarring and eye-opening. So my relationship with them was very tenuous surrounding those conversations. So that was really, and still is, really hard. That's not something that I really can have a conversation with them about anymore. There's a huge boundary there because it's, as you know, to me, it's that the Christian nationalism portion of this is so separate from my relationship with God that it's cult-like, right? It's a cult. And that's really hard for me to explain to people that are in the cult. So that's been really challenging. I'm not gonna lie.
Okay, so last question on Jamie, I'd love to hear from you. So do your parents watch your content? Like, do they see what you're doing? I mean, how do you share what your message is with them?
I don't really. Again, it's had to be a boundary because I've created content that they have seen, like especially my mom. My dad's not really like online. He's not very tech savvy. So he's not really, other than watching like OAN on YouTube, like he's not like
you have to laugh. Are you like
I have to laugh, but like he watches YouTube and I don't want to make fun of him, in that way too. Like I still have so much empathy and compassion for my parents, but I don't share my content with them. And the one time that my mom saw a sketch that I did where I was dressed as little Edie and I was like basically like waving like an American flag when Trump lost and like we kicked him out of office. Like I made this whole funny sketch about it. Like she was appalled and she was like, you have to take it down right now. Like you have to take it down. And I was just like, I am not doing that and you will be blocked. So yeah, again, it's a really challenging position to be in. And a lot of it, I don't think that a lot of it they might not even understand really, because I think they're so enmeshed in the Christian nationalism culture that I think it would be actually hard to explain some of it.
Yeah.
Jamie, I'd love to hear your background on that too. But you guys made a video about a couch recently.
We did.
Yes.
Couches have been big news lately.
Yeah, a lot of couches. There was a sect of couches. We did.
Yeah, but yeah, one of you were like a car seat, and somebody was an ottoman, and yeah.
I was a folding chair.
We're on the beach. We're on vacation.
We're on the beach.
He has his like home slice on Long Beach.
Yeah.
Yes. What's your faith background, Jamie, and does that impact your politics here today?
Yeah, so I grew up in an agnostic family where we, my parents were both public servants. There's a lot of lawyers in my family, and so we kind of always talked about politics. But I was always I didn't know what I was searching for, but I was seeking community. And so when I finally was, I grew up as a dancer, but I was like, oh my God, it's the theater. That's where my people are. I kind of I found a Christian community theater. I joined the theater. I joined the church. That was the first time that I really experienced oh, this is where I'm supposed to be. And so then as time went on, I was kind of wrestling my faith versus my theater. And I had kind of been starting to step away from the church and starting to, I'm bisexual, and I was starting to lean more into my liberal values and my theater friends. And then in 2008, when California banned gay marriage with Proposition 8, that was when I officially stepped away from the church and put religion down and said, I'm still a spiritual person. I still have community, but my values are not the same as what's happening in the church. And so that was when I stepped away. And so I've kind of always been political, and I've, as we've all seen, our rights kind of get stripped away over the last ever. It's what I've always wanted to. Once I realized, I also then wanted to do comedy. Same thing with Elizabeth and Emily. I wanted to do political comedy and to talk about these issues, because whether or not someone is involved in politics, whether or not they're aware of politics, everyone is a participant.
Interesting. Yeah. And Elizabeth, how about you?
So I was raised Catholic.
Stop right there.
Do you need to know anything else?
The Southern Baptists say Christianity, maybe?
So my dad was very Catholic, went to Catholic school growing up. Comes from a long line of, private Catholic schoolboys who, my grandfather on that side was left-handed, and the nuns would smack his left hand to train him to be a right-handed person, that kind of stuff. It's fine. They're just kids. So as a good Catholic, I would go to CCD every Saturday morning. So as a kid, I'm going to school, waking up for school 5 days a week. And then on Saturday mornings, I have to get up to go to CCD. And then on Sundays, I have to get up to go to church. So as you can tell, I'm not very happy about that. I went, learned a lot. I know, know my Bible stories and everything. But my disillusionment with the church came when I was about in second grade, and the priest came into our class and told a room of 7-year-olds that our pets were not going to heaven because they don't have souls. You're 7.
Oh.
And that was when I was like, I don't know about this.
If Fluffy's not going, I don't want to be there.
Yeah. I mean, I continued with it mostly for my dad because it was important to him. I'm confirmed. Like I have the longest name of all time. It's Elizabeth Ann Catherine Eckert Ross.
Now that is a good Catholic name.
Yeah.
Right? After my grandmother on my dad's side. And so, I continued with it through that. And then after my confirmation, I just said, I'm done. Like, this is not for me. I've always been into, feminism and, women's issues and not so much politics, honestly, growing up, even being an Air Force brat. But it's weird because I'm an Air Force brat of a musician that was in the Air Force. So, but always like an artistic household and always a liberal household. Like, so I was kind of held in that liberal bubble for quite some time because my parents were always liberal. There was never even like, we didn't even bat an eye against, like, oh, cool. They're gay. Awesome. Like, it was never even a thing, even back in the 90s for us. And even in college, because I went for theater, again, nothing. And then, after going out into the actual real world and, seeing real life and, breaking that bubble was really eye-opening to, the things that, oh, this is real. Like racism is real. Like sexism is real. Like homophobia is real. Like, wow, just because I have not experienced it or I have not felt any of that in my little bubble, and I need to be using my privilege to do something about it.
Just so everybody knows, to the Southern Baptist on the screen, which includes Ashley, the venue we were at with our event tonight, which is showing 1946, the movie, which is about the mistranslation of the Bible and my talk on Christian nationalism. We were at a Southern Baptist church tonight, an affirming Southern Baptist church.
I had no idea there was one.
It seems like an oxymoron, doesn't it?
Yeah, I can't believe they're actually a part of the SBC.
It's like, maybe it's the one.
I mean, we could say a lot about the Southern Baptist Convention, but I'm shocked. I'm shook.
I think they say they're one of two. There's like an affirming Baptist group or something in the South of affirming Baptist churches, and they have their own little org. So
Wow.
I'm surprised they haven't been kicked out. Yeah.
Well, there's two. That's nice. Okay, so I would love to hear you all kind of reflect on and just like hearing a little more about how you came into this work and how you lift up the banner of comedy to say these like very poignant and thought-provoking things with your work. And we all laugh. I mean, we have so much fun seeing what you're doing and all of that. But we all probably kind of know at this point in our lives, like comedy helps unlock things or like helps you cope with pain. Like we know the power of comedy. And I wonder if you could talk a little bit about like the ways in which you've seen the things you're putting out there, how people are reacting to it. If you've seen this sort of like something's coming loose because you're willing to do what you're doing with your comedy, and sort of what's the like it's funny, but we're not laughing kind of side of this for you all. And what kind of reaction do you get?
That's a great question. And I'll start the conversation mainly because of, we know in social media too, that sure, people might be laughing with you. And then there's the other side of the trolls, right? The people that are coming for you. And so I think that that's been really eye-opening but also helping us to know that we're on the right track. Because with comedy or with anything, but specifically with comedy, if you're hitting people in this really soft, tender spot, whether it's to laugh or to cry, because it's a two-sided coin essentially. But like any reaction at all, good or bad, we're making some sort of impact. And so I think that has been one of the biggest joys of this experience so far, and that has propelled us forward, is to say, yes, people are laughing with us. There are people, they get it, they understand. But then there's the other side of folks in a different ideologies that are so offended, right? And the irony too of, we could talk a lot about this as well, of like, the really far right and the really far left, how sometimes it's just one big circle. You're so far you go left, or you're so left you go right. As far as the offense too, right? People being offended, whether they're super left or super right, and also has been eye-opening for us, right? That people are so tied up in what is so perfectly done or perfectly said, how it's done, that, and we want to be conscious, right, of people's feelings and of and our privilege and our blind spots as white women. But it's been really, really eye-opening to see how many people are offended.
And I want to keep that side of the topic open, but also ask, have you had anybody be like, ha 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 ha, oh wait, they're talking about me? And that is so poignant that it makes them introspective. Have you had that happen at all too, as you're talking about the response?
I don't think that we've had that direct of a encounter. It's hard, it's hard on like a TikTok or or these Instagram, these social sites where the response is so immediate in the comments. If someone loves it, they're like, ha ha ha. If someone hates it, they're like, how dare you? So I do think that I think if we were to be able to sit down with people like you do on your podcast and have a bit of more of a long form discussion with people, which we hope to do, which we are planning on doing, that we're going to see more of that blend of, oh my gosh, right on all sides. So that's the hope for sure.
Yeah, and I want to add too that, like, it's part of the way that the human brain works. There's that cognitive dissonance. Like, if you are you have your beliefs, there's the things that you believe, and if you're so deeply invested and entrenched in those beliefs, then you're then presented with evidence of the contrary, you're going to dig in deeper to your beliefs. Yeah. But that's why comedy is really great. Comedy is an excellent vehicle for education, because if you're laughing, then you're open to learning. And it stems from children learn through play. Like, literally, children are learning through their play. That's how they learn about themselves, about the world, about their relationships to everything around them. And so we as adults, if we are presented with something that's funny, that gives us an opportunity to kind of like see it from a different angle, and it gives you a chance to just reassess and be like, oh, why is it that I have that strongly held belief? Oh, that was kind of funny. Maybe is that valid also?
Yeah, for sure.
Because the political commentary on like Saturday Night Live, for instance, works because we see that it's outrageous, but then we're kind of like, but yeah, it kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
I've heard it said, and I'm quoting like a preacher that I used to listen to a lot, who I don't listen to anymore, but I do remember this one saying. He would always say that God would offend your mind to reveal your heart. And I wonder if, when you're like, we put this out there and this was so offensive, what that reveals about, broad swaths of people who are watching and reacting. Like, it is a really good mirror, honestly. It's like, it's kind of showing society, this is kind of where you're at. So,
yeah. And that's what I think for me, like deconstructing and with my family, that's also been very evident. Even though like I have to have really strong boundaries with my family about politics, there's no doubt in my mind that the reason my mom was so offended by this sketch, this sketch that I created, was because it was a mirror to her. It was me saying, this is what I'm seeing. This is my experience. And unfortunately, sometimes, as we know in, deeply held religion, anything that's threatening to those ideologies is is going to be cast out, right? Because it's a control mechanism. There's not a lot of, even though I believe in true Christianity and true gospel, like it's about being open and it's about saying, oh my gosh, let us be vulnerable with one another and actually, and actually receive those mirroring moments as possibly a message from God, or and so that's really, it's sad, but it's also really telling, which is why it spurs me on personally, that maybe one day, who knows, maybe my family, maybe people that I disagree with will see these sketches as open doors, at least like little, so that's what I'm hoping.
So
let me play another video real quick.
Okay, good. I was going to say, we just went down. I'm I'm now in this very dark corner, feeling very sad. So like, let's go back to comedy, then we'll go back to like, yeah. Good idea.
And I loved this one. This isn't one of the ones you sent me, but
Okay.
I love it, and I really want to hear what your creative process is on this. But let's show the video first.
What are you looking for in a partner?
Faith in God. And in Q.
A shared love for Reagan and red meat. Someone who isn't afraid to tell me what to do with my body. Or his.
We share the same hobbies, like cleaning guns and calling the cops on our neighbors.
Someone to take the wheel just like Jesus, so I can be in the passenger seat of life.
A patriot who wants to snuggle up and chat on 4chan.
And treat me to Cracker Barrel before our next rally.
Why do you want to cuff a conservative?
Tax breaks, offshore accounts. I find alpha males with podcasts really hot. Mar-a-Lago discounts.
I can't start my life until God sends me a strong man.
3 words. Kinky, secret, freaks.
What's the biggest red flag when it comes to dating?
Tipping over 10%. Red flag. Red's my favorite color.
Suggesting a contraception.
Empathy.
Empathy.
Empathy. Are you single? You're scrawny but cute. Kind of a Jack Sprat situation here, if you know what I mean.
I forgot about that one.
That was after that conservative dating site, The Right Stuff, came out. And that's why I chose that background music, because you know.
Yeah, I haven't watched that in forever. That is so well, like it's so prevalent. Like, oh my god,
secret freaks.
So like I'll talk you through our creative process, which is kind of similar for all the different sketches we do. So we're all in 4 different states, and we all have 4 different TikTok For You pages, like different algorithms. And so kind of what we do is one of us will see something either on TikTok or in the news or wherever, and we have a Marco Polo chat, which is like a video audio chat that the 4 of us use. And so we'll be like, oh my gosh, everybody, did you just see this crazy story on whatever? And we'll kind of riff on it and be like, oh yeah, that was really weird. Can we do something with it? And then just kind of go back and forth and riff off of each other on Marco Polo until we have a strong idea, and then we put it down in a Google Doc.
We'll just pitch different games. Like, okay, what crazy thing in the news that's happening right now has the best game to it? And yeah, what's something that we can do with it? Like we were like with our last video, Couchul, that we have on our TikTok and IG. That actually we were spitballing on another sketch idea, and it was just Emily that was like, okay, blah, 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 in one of her polos, and at the very end she was like, oh yeah, and by the way, have we talked about how JD Vance might have fucked a couch? Anyways.
And then
now we have to mark it explicit now, of course.
Oh no!
Oh no! Leave it to me.
Hold on, worth it.
Love it. Thank you.
Well, worth it.
You snuck it in as artfully as Tim Walls did the other day. So it's really good.
I have a feeling that the bots will never find that one. So we'll sneak around it.
What cracks me up about that video is my first semester of college, I was at a Christian, I put that word in quotes, Christian university. And, there's always these jokes around Christian schools, colleges of, you get your MRS degree, right, if you're a female, and married
That's
by spring. Yeah, married by spring or your money back, right?
Exactly. And it's also quite prevalent in like Southern culture as well, right? So some of my family members like went to like these huge Southern schools like Alabama, and it's like you go there to find your husband. So it's wild.
Well, just to show you how Paul went from, going to the Christian college to where we ended up today. So when you're at the Christian college, you got kicked out for like eating in the dorm cafeteria without having a pass. And the dean of the school, tell me if I'm telling the story right, literally told you that you're going to hell because you did this. And then you're like, I'll tell you what, I don't want to go to heaven if I, like something.
No. You blew the story. The dean was telling me how upset he was that I had violated campus policy, and I was already sort of on double secret probation already. He said, but even more so, I'm concerned about your soul and whether you're going to hell. And I looked at him and said, tell you what, why don't you go to hell? And
better. It's a better story.
The end of my time.
Okay. So from there, fast forward a couple of bumps along the way, et cetera. So then Paul ends up at Fresno State, speaking of couches, where in his dorm they decided they wanted to find out what would happen if they lived.
No, I did not have sex with a couch.
Okay, just to get that out of the way. Okay.
This was like, yes.
Not that there's anything wrong with that,
This
different strokes.
With couches in the 80s. So this was like well before the J.D. Vance days. But so they decide, these kids, that they want to find out what happens if you light a couch on fire and throw it out a window.
Oh, I love this.
And it turns out what happens is you get kicked out of the dorm. That's what happens.
Well, it was the last week of school when we did it. But David Letterman used to have a show, and he would throw things off a 5-story building. That was one of his bits he would do. And so one day he took a bag of flour, soaked it in turpentine, set it on fire, and threw it off the building. And it was so cool. And we're like, we've got to do that. And so we did it, and it was amazing. And we may have had some alcohol involved, and suddenly everybody was lighting anything they could find on fire and throwing it out the window. And yes, we were.
I feel like an old like 80s, like, those like really like plasticky type, couches are gonna light on fire so well. Go up.
And this one was soaked in alcohol.
Yeah,
very, very.
I'm sure. Yes.
So who thought of the name? The name is super clever. Who thought of the name?
Emily.
Yeah, we were spitballing names for a long time. We used to be called the Socialites because before we kind of turned a corner on our, and honed in on political content, we were more, okay, we're making fun of social content and being online and, just being in a media world. And then we were like, no, we're more about politics now, political satire. And so we were just spitballing around, and Emily threw up the name Libtarts, and we thought it was awesome. It was very racy. It was it's very thought-provoking. And so, that's what we went with.
Yeah. Talk about getting offended. People were like, I feel so offended. And I'm like, we understand, but we're not using we're reclaiming like a word that's been used against us, but we've changed it to, obviously to like the whole tarts is more geared towards women. And so we're in no way trying to talk about like the mentally disabled in any negative way. But people immediately, because it's so reactive, they weren't realizing what we had changed at the beginning. And so people were like, I feel very offended. And we were like, we understand. Give it some time. So.
That's always been us too. That's always been our content. We literally have on, as our description as sweet, salty satire. And so it has always been that super poke the bear kind of content. And we've always wanted it to be that way, where, at first you might be like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And then if you just take a deep breath, think about it, then Oh, okay. So that's always been our style.
Yeah. Well, we love to just hear from people as we probably are looking to close out here first in just a minute. Like what are you either reading or watching or observing that's inspiring you? Kind of like what is like, there's just this thing I keep thinking about it. I'm drawing inspiration from it. What is that for each of you right now?
I'll jump in first. I am a nerd. I'm a history nerd, and I'm actually reading a book about the history of autism. And so I'm reading a book called Neurotribes, which is, have you read it? Yeah, amazing. Yeah, it's a very easy read, accessible read, written by an author as he was discovering about autism in the early 2000s when it wasn't really talked about a whole bunch. And so it's a really enjoyable read just about the history of autism, kind of primarily in the United States, and the first person who was officially diagnosed, which was in the 1930s. Of course, there were very many autistic people prior to the 1930s in America, but it's about stemming back to the first documented case, and it's a really fascinating read.
Wow, that is cool. And could just follow up. So, like, what's inspiring about that for you?
I'm really enjoying reading autism being talked about in just a very normal, friendly, accessible way. It's just another neurotype. Like, yes, it is a disability, but also we live in an ableist society, and very many people are disabled because we live in an ableist society. It doesn't have to be that way. This is just kind of the world that we've built now, but it doesn't always have to be that way. And so I'm just really, it's just like a nice breath of fresh air to just hear autism talked about in an accessible way.
Yeah, very cool. All right. Liz, how about you?
Mine honestly is, it's a little, my inspiration, it's a little weirder than that, because I go down like dark rabbit holes of like just political TikToks and oh my gosh, gloom and doom and everything's terrible and oh my God. And then I spiral and, I have my political podcasts that I love to listen to on long drives, and like Pod Save America is one that I love. And I'm looking forward to, what is it? Assembly Required, Stacey Abrams.
Oh yeah.
New podcast that's going to be added to my list. So I love keeping informed, but that can kind of spiral me inward instead of inspiring me to do work. And honestly, it might be a little silly, but right now, what is inspiring me is this new amazing wave of awesome music that we are hearing. Like, as a musician, as an artist, the fact that we are getting like amazing, like I'm obsessed with Chapel Roan right now.
Yes.
The fact that we are just like, I feel like we've been in such a dead zone of good new music for years, and it happened to coincide with, and now it's kind of, I don't know, like just, putting on the new artists that are coming out right now and just jamming out while I'm, writing content or searching for things or editing a sketch together or something like that. It's just so, I could do it for hours. I should check out Ren. Okay, I will check out Ren.
Thank you.
That just is so inspiring to me. Just other amazing, incredible art that is happening. And it just makes me want to continue with it and just join in, because it's amazing.
We need like a Libtart playlist, please.
Yes,
please. If you build that, podcast, music, whatever, like I would so appreciate that.
I was going to say Hotties for Harris, right?
Yes.
Oh, very good. Emily, how about you?
I'm kind of a sports galley. I know that like that's kind of one of my little facets, one of my special interests, speaking of autism. But I love the Olympics were so fantastic. I'm just trying to find the joy and the things that are inspiring. And this, like, to me, those things are so simple. These people have worked really hard, unless you're Ray Gun, and then they get chosen to represent their countries for better or for worse, where those countries are, right now in the world, how they're being seen or talked about. And they're, to me, it's just it's been really incredible to watch and be inspired by those, particularly women, to be honest, you know, especially in America. Like we had like, I don't know, was it 65% of all the golds were all the women that won them. And so that was just really inspiring to see the movement in sports too, with like everybody watches women's sports as well. That's been super inspiring for me to watch. So
and Christians suddenly care about women's boxing for some reason.
I know, they love it. They are so concerned about people getting punched in the face because they're so pro-life. So yeah, which is a whole thing. And I'm so glad that she's suing Elon Musk and she's suing J.K. Rowling.
I love it.
I think it's amazing. So yeah, so sports and like trying to find the joy. So the joy in the politics that we're seeing, like Tim Walz, has been really inspiring, and it just feels very normal, and that is happy. That makes me happy right now. Yeah.
So what did you think about Jordan Childs and losing the bronze, getting it back, losing it again, and then bowing to the Brazilian gymnast?
I think that it is an issue with the judges, and it's an issue with the Olympic Committee. Like if we've already closed it out, I think that they should just both get the bronze at this point. So that's really it's gosh, how demoralizing, right? So it's there are definitely things to look at, but to me that was a judge's error in the moment. Right? If she was late, if like her coaches were late in getting the information or asking for the query, then that should have been on them. Like this is what they have one job, right? Certain people have like one job. And to me, that should have been their job. So I don't think that she should be penalized for that.
Yeah, all that stuff is so much fun. And, I watched the highlights of the women's gold medal basketball game.
Yes.
Came down to just somebody stepping on a line to make the difference, and all this stuff is so fun. And on the men's side, I love the story about Steph Curry went crazy for the American men, and McDonald's, said France said we're going to take our curry sauce off the menu, because we're upset at Steph Curry. I love that.
Oh my God! Yeah, he had like, I don't know, was it like at least 4 or 5 threes at the end there? I mean, it was just like insane. So yeah,
it really is cool. I've heard a lot of commentary about that the Olympics this go round was like, I just think there's something going on, in the world, and like we've all just come off of COVID and all these things that we now all see at the same time and have this sort of global shock or joy or whatever. And the Olympics just came at this moment of like, we need to see this kind of stuff. And, of course, there was the typical offense and reactions and the opening ceremonies and all the things. But I almost feel like there's this rush of emotion and human energy and connectivity that is just flowing right past that stuff. The people who are stuck there, they're just like kind of like a stick in the river. But this river is just flowing of like, we're not going to slow down and debate whether or not it makes sense for us to have these feelings about this weird stuff. We're just like going and we're finding each other again. And it feels really cool.
I completely agree. And I do think that you hit the nail on the head with it. To me, it's very much like this mystical energy that's happening, I identify, I think currently really as kind of like a Christian mystic. So to me, you can feel that energy, right? And it's not just tribalism. I mean, there is tribalism involved, but I do think that it's exactly right. I feel like there's like a break in the river, like the dam is kind of broken, and like people are now like, see ya, past those people that are stuck at the rocks. So I think that's awesome.
Well, and to Liz's comment, I'm a bulwark. I mean, I like Pod Save America, but I love the bulwark. I love me some Tim Miller, and it's the energy of, I guess to say it this way, being able to laugh at Donald Trump. He does something and it's just funny now because it's not so like, oh my God, this guy is going to be the dictator of our country, but it feels like now he's just becoming a joke, and that is feeling good to me. It doesn't mean he's not going to win the election. It's still a little scary that he's this close to winning and this guy, but it does feel good to be able to laugh about it.
It's like he's been defanged, and it's interesting that you just said, Paul, he could still win the election. I hadn't considered that. But it's like, you know what? Even if he does, it's like he's been declawed.
Yeah.
It's just kind of a type of thing. The sort of the fellowship or something like that, to me feels a little bit, I don't know, like the air's out of the bag or something.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to continue though too. So I'm really curious to see, obviously, this election cycle. I'm curious to see how it will continue to deflate as we get closer.
If you think about it, in certainly in my lifetime, I'm a Gen Xer, and born in 1972, and kind of grew up in a bubble Southern Baptist family as well in the South. Now looking back on it, very segregated, very problematic. But in my bubble, it was like, like probably the first big national crisis that I ever remember hearing about was Ollie North having to testify to Congress. And my dad came into my room and he's like, pray for Ollie North. I'm like, okay, Dad, dear God, Jesus, help Ollie North. And like Monica Lewinsky, like those were the big like things that were rattling our household. And, but like kind of otherwise, like everything was fine. And then like, as I'm getting older, it's like, oh shit, everything's not fine. And all of these like, all of a sudden democracy is not something that you can just take for granted. If it is true, and I hope this is the case, if it's true that we're living in a season and in an era where we all get to choose it again, just think about every individual person's choice of like, no, I kind of like democracy. I may not always agree with my neighbor, but I choose to see that person and believe that what they're saying is valuable, and we got to find a way to work it out. Exactly. If that happens, person after person, 5, 10, 20 million, 100, whatever it is, like that is in fact something to be enthusiastic about. It can potentially fuel another 50, 75, 100 years of advancement for our nation and for the world. So we are either living in the darkest of times or right on the brink of sort of a renaissance of this democratic wave that fueled, the last couple hundred years and then just came to the screeching halt. And here we are. So anyway, that's my political / prophetic prognostication.
Absolutely. And just to kind of, finish up on all of these things that we're doing to be inspired individually, because we all come from these very obviously quite different backgrounds and ideologies, but we are trying to do just that. Like we are working on, we're developing a pilot that we want to be able to not just have these jokes about laws and people and what is happening in our nation, but also talk about really we want to talk about to the humans behind these ideologies, right? And that we're not really as divided as the ideologies want us to believe. So, which is why they're so dangerous. So we're excited to bring that to people, hopefully soon, but we're working on it.
Awesome. I love that. And I think it's so important because I was just in Oklahoma and the people there were great. And, we're talking about putting Bibles in the classroom and they're all rolling their eyes and like, oh God, yes, we're crazy in Oklahoma. And so the people are good, but they're still going to vote overwhelmingly for Donald Trump. It's pretty crazy that we're still at that place. So I do think like pointing people towards something else is maybe something where, it's kind of where we're going next. Yeah, I think. I hope.
We hope so too, but that's the thing. It's the one voter, one issue voters that are just being like, well, I still got to check this box. Anyway, we know.
We gotta unbuckle everybody from but the Bible says.
Yes. Right.
I want to love people, but the Bible says. Those things.
Ironic.
I thought you were about to sing "Chosen One."
Oh my God! No, but if you bring me back, I promise to sing a rendition if you want.
There you go. Spoof "Chosen One." Go.
You got it. Oh my God. Yeah.
Thanks. All right. We love you guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah. Well, I have to say, happy 30th anniversary. Our wedding anniversary was Monday. We've been married 30 years. Incredible. And on our 30th wedding anniversary, you're in Sacramento, California on a trip, and I am in Pensacola, Florida. We just about couldn't be farther apart.
If you were to go back and tell 22-year-old bride Ashley, hey, guess what? 30 years from now, you will celebrate your 30-year anniversary with you being in Sacramento on business and Paul being in Pensacola, Florida on business. I don't think that person would have imagined my life at this moment and the path we've been down to get here. In some ways, in other ways, it's like, huh, okay, yeah, that kind of makes sense.
She might have reconsidered her decision at that point, perhaps.
I don't think she would have, but she would maybe not have expected it. But here we are, and here we, summer of swearing and fun on Ish. Loving it, and I'm loving that we're able to do this with you wherever your travels are taking you, and it's been really cool.
And by the way, I'll be 59 in September. I've been married 30 years. That means I have been married more of my life now than I have not been married.
See, I crossed that threshold long ago because I'm so young.
Yes, true.
So, that was my story many years ago.
I do have to tell you as well, our group here was watching our podcast last week, and one of the guys on our crew was like, Paul, I'm sorry to tell you this, but your wife is hot. Stop.
Go on. Yeah, that's pretty funny. That's pretty funny.
Okay, go buy books, go buy shirts. What are we
so
supposed
we're wrapping up here, and we're so grateful for those of you who are downloading every single week. Just really appreciate the connection.
Our numbers are good. Yeah, we're liking our numbers.
But I'll tell you this, they could be better. So if you're listening to this right now, it means that you have kind of had some fun listening to us for the last hour. Make sure you tell people about the Ish podcast. You can learn more at evangelicalish.com. That is where you can go to subscribe. Subscribe costs you nothing. All you do is get a free newsletter and you find out the kind of stuff we're doing. If you are so inclined, you can also support, and that could just be a little bit of money every month. I don't know, $4.99 a month, $5.99, something like that. That could just be a little thing. You won't even notice it. Or if you're feeling very generous, you could actually sign up for like $15.99 a month. That goes a long way for us being able to keep doing this week in, week out, having fun doing it. And so subscribe or support, get a t-shirt, get a book, and tell your friends to listen in every week on Ish.
And can I be a little bit evangelicalish and say, if you really love the Lord, you'll share this podcast with the Libtarts. If you're ashamed of the Lord and ashamed of Evangelicalish, you'll be ashamed of you in front of the Father.
I'm having some acid reflux right now. I just don't.
Oh, that shame used to go a long way. So,
dear God, we are all still recovering shame addicts. Let's be honest. Yeah. We're all trying to walk out of shame.
And it's used a lot because it works. So yeah. Oh, Dawn is saying her birthday is September 22nd. When it's my birthday and my son's birthday are on September 26th. So almost right there with you, Dawn, in the comments. Okay. Well, hey, is that it?
That's it. And next week, do you have any idea where you'll be on Wednesday of next week?
I can look.
And for folks who are interested, in case you were watching this thinking Paul was kidnapped and is behind a locked door in a religious cult of some sort, he is not. He's at an Airbnb in Jacksonville, Florida, more than halfway through a 30-day road trip. And next week you'll be in
Springfield, Missouri.
Oh, Lordy Jesus.
Okay. Where I had the dean of the school tell me I was going to hell. I'm going to reclaim Springfield, Missouri.
Okay, full circle just happened right then. Okay, so and next week is going to be particularly important that we're hanging out together on Ish because there's a lot of emotion for you about being back in this, like such an impactful place, the headquarters of the Assemblies of God denomination, which is what your family, what you grew up in. And yeah, you're going to need some moral support next week. So we all gotta be there for you.
And let me say, anybody who is near will be in Sarasota tomorrow. Then we go to Birmingham, Memphis, Springfield, Missouri, Colorado Springs, Salt Lake City, and Vegas. So if you're near any of those places, or you know anybody near any of those places, go to Eventbrite and search 1946 the movie, and you can find out when we're going to be in your area. And I love it when people come up and say, I've seen you on Evangelicalish, I've seen you on TikTok, I've seen you on Instagram, and it makes life worth it. So love it.
Awesome. Well, and I see Dawn's comment. I wonder if Dawn is still in the Missouri area. If so,
she came out of Missouri Synod Lutheran, and
you got to go Go say hi. All right. Let's wrap right there, and we will see everyone next week.